All right, so we're here. A&J Sports. We're back. Fantasy football season's over, but we got basketball content to talk about. Molly is not here today. It's just me and
Oh,
Jacob, and we're ready to get into it. We've had there's a lot that's going on in the NBA season. I feel like there's no way we could talk about everything, so we're just going to jump in where we're at, talk about kind of, a few of our predictions for the rest of the season, bold predictions, postseason awards. We'll just kind of go over it all.
full thing. Let's do it.
So yeah, first things first, lay of the land, standings right now. I guess we can talk about where we're at. Pistons leading the East right now, OKC leading the West. We were just talking about it before, but what are your thoughts on the standings, the leaders of the conferences? What's your just kind of gauge of where
Yeah.
everything's at right now?
No, it's kind of interesting because like the last 3 to 5, 10 years, like the West has kind of dominated the standings, as in like every team, including the play-in, has above 500 records. And I feel like this year the tides are finally starting to turn with like pretty much all the East play-in teams are 500 or above, and some of the West teams are like below 500, which honestly hasn't happened in a while. Like I think the East finally has a bit more depth than the West, which is like again, it's been a while since that happened, but
Yeah.
I still think the top tier teams are in the West. Like I'd be shocked if the West didn't win it all this year. But the East definitely has some like teams that can compete and make some noise. Like I think it's in a few years, I think it's gonna be a lot more balanced with a lot of these young teams on the East. But I don't know, it's gonna be close. I think like there's no clear team that can win it all or should win it all. Like I think it's really wide open this year. But what were your kind of takeaways when you first looked at it?
I mean, yeah, I think similar to you, it is a just the flipping of the conferences. You could even we talked about Charlotte. They're like a had a crazy winning streak a couple of weeks ago, and they're the 10 seed. I think you could argue that Charlotte, is better than most of the play-in teams, maybe better than the Lakers even in the West. So in Milwaukee being outside of all of that, I mean, granted, Giannis has been hurt a good amount of time, so that's influenced it, but still, it's definitely the East being terrible for all those years, it's finally turned around a little bit. Going back to Milwaukee, though, I think that's one of my other, just, I don't know, kind of takeaways and then question for you. But it's been a few, not as many teams that are like clear disappointments. Like I think on the East, Milwaukee, you know, clearly hasn't been up to expectation, and Giannis is probably going to get traded in the offseason. But outside of that, like Memphis. I guess is your biggest disappointment in the West. A lot of that to kind of do with Ja, but they traded Jaren Jackson
Yeah,
now, so
blew
they're
up the
in a
team.
tank
So like,
mode.
yeah,
Dallas traded AD, they're tanking. The Pelicans, I guess you could say they like them too, maybe, but I don't know. They're the Pelicans, maybe, but they've just been bad so consistently that I don't know if you can really expect more of them. So it's, I think Milwaukee is probably the biggest disappointment out of all of these teams this year, but curious where, I don't know, or how do you land on that?
it's a great question, honestly, because I would almost say it's like it's not like there's a ton of disappointing teams this year. I'd almost say there's more like overachieving teams. Like I feel like teams like the Trailblazers, nobody thought would be in this spot. The Suns, no one thought would be in this spot. Even like the Spurs, no one thought they'd be the 2 seed in the West. Like I think they were probably pinned in as like a play-in team for this year, maybe a edge of the playoff team. But like the Raptors, the Hornets that you just mentioned, even like the Heat are always around 500, but they're better than they've been. The Sixers are better than they've been. Like Celtics, everyone thought would be like middle of the pack this year without Tatum, and I mean, they're again second in the conference. Like I think it's really more teams like overachieving rather than disappointing. Because like disappointing wise, I really only think it's the Bucks. But like again, they lost Dame heading into the year. Like I mean, obviously they traded him, but like as far as disappointment, like I guess you could say the Warriors too, like 31 and 30, like with Jimmy Butler and he's gone now. Clippers
Yeah,
too,
it's
I
also
guess you could say, just because of beginning of year expectations with the full team, with Harden, with Zubac, all those people. But other than that, man, I don't think there's been a ton of disappointment, which is great for the league.
yeah.
Any other teams you think that maybe overachieved or still need to kind of improve?
I mean, in terms of overachieving, I mean, we talked about it with San Antonio. I think they did well, and then I don't know, we'll get into the playoff stuff, but Detroit, I don't know. we'll see how this regular season success ends up translating. They've done a great job this year, and Cade has really carried that team. But how far is that going to take them once they get into the postseason? And I think the way the seedings end up shaping up is going to have a really big impact for both conferences as things shape out. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, getting into, I guess, further predictions for the postseason, starting off with the dark horse. Um, I'll let you get started. Which one do you want to start with, Charlotte or San Antonio?
I'll take the harder one, as in the team that shouldn't really be on here with the Spurs. Like, I mean, we talked about this for a while before the pod. We want to get an East team and a West team in, and looking through the West, there's really no dark horse teams like that could really pull off more than a winning in the first round of the playoffs. Like, I think we looked at the play-in. Like, I don't think the Warriors, the Suns, Clippers, like most of those teams, if they had an insane year, they'd make it out of the play-in. Like, if I just don't really see them going that far. And so I think, like, looking at the West, the Timberwolves, they've been there. The Nuggets, they've been there. All these teams have kind of been there, but made far runs in the West. But Spurs the last 5 or so years have not really been in contention. So I would say, like, dark horse team. I know they're second seed in the West, but I would say they're a dark horse. Like, I could totally see them making it to the Western Conference Finals, even the NBA Finals. Like, after a surprising like NBA Cup run, like I know that doesn't necessarily translate, but when the games matter, they've showed they could really rise up and play really good basketball. They beat the Thunder 3 times this year, like a lot of good wins this year. I think they're a sneaky team. I think they could win the West.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that they beat the Thunder, 3 times this year. I think that kind of speaks to, if you need any other evidence of like that's the team they would need to get through to go to the finals, they've handled them.
Yeah,
With and without SGA. So if Wemby can stay healthy, I think that puts them in a much different spot. And then
totally.
on the other end for the East, Charlotte. I think this one it's going to be interesting again coming down to where they're seated right now. They would be a play-in team, and they're the 10 seed. So I guess the best they could be is the 8 going up against Detroit round one, which you know isn't a terrible matchup. I think there's a world where I mean we just saw Charlotte. I don't know how long the winning streak was exactly, but they went along and they were beating like let's
Beat OKC by 30 on the
yeah,
road.
it's like
Like
they
that.
were dominating. You know the top teams in the league. So I think they've shown, again, it's a lack of consistency. You could argue LaMelo's not the most serious player, but they've been able to pull off big wins. Like, again, they beat the Magic, 76ers, the Spurs, the Rockets.
It's a big wins
Yeah, it's like these are,
for a team that didn't even make the play-in last year, too.
yeah, they've like had a significant turnaround this season. They beat OKC by a good amount. It's like they've shown that they can compete. They beat Denver. You know, I I don't know. It would take them elevating their play to a level that they haven't done consistently up until this point. So, I think that's, they're more of a dark horse than San Antonio, but out of the teams in the East, they've shown that they can compete with everyone in the conference. And talent-wise, they have, it's a young team and it's an unproven team, but they're kind of in a similar position to where Detroit or Orlando was, a year or two, 3 years ago. So, I think they are, they still have more to prove, but it's not to say that it can't be this year's team to, maybe, be the one that breaks out and takes a little bit of a step forward.
I totally agree. I mean, I could totally see them pulling like a Hawks type playoff run where they sweep by 2 teams, not sweep, but they get by 2 teams they maybe shouldn't have beat. Like, I could see them either fizzling out in the play-in. I could see them easily, not easily, but I can see them
They
making
could,
the
yeah.
Eastern Conference Finals, honestly. Like, I don't think that's that crazy to say. But it's going to take, like you said, like consistent high level play, which they haven't necessarily done so
That's
far.
like the antithesis of LaMelo Ball, consistent high level play. But if you could do it, then
Like you said though, they made some good pickups around the trade deadline. Like that Kobe White pickup I thought was great. They got Diabate. I mean, they had Diabate, but he's been great this year. Like they have a lot of good young players like Knuple, Kalkbrenner, like a few other guys like that. Like they have a low-key team that like
Brandon
next year
Miller,
could
Bridges,
try
it's like
to
they have.
top 4 in the East. Like it's possible. Yeah. This one's a bit more straightforward. What side are you on? Who's the rookie of the year?
I mean,
Not counting eligibility in the 65 games, all that. Just if you
whatever.
had to pick rookie of the year right now, who are you picking?
I don't know. This is I think you have to give it to Knuppel just because of what he's Flag. I think this team is kind of built around him. He is the focal point, especially, I mean, Anthony Davis barely played for Dallas this season, but he has been made a focal point of this team. They played him at point guard for some time. Like, not to say that his stats aren't impressive, and he's certainly, lived up to the hype of being the number one pick in all of this, but he's been his usage, I think, has been kind of encouraging him to do that. And with Khan, this is a team where he's the second or he's the third leading scorer. He's averaging 19 points a game. And they have Miles Bridges averaging 17. They have LaMelo Ball averaging 19. They have Brandon Miller averaging 21. Like, he is jumped immediately into a way bigger role than I think people would have anticipated around a lot of other high scorers. Like, it's not like he's the top usage guy on that team. Um, so I don't know. Flag, in terms of who is a better player, like, yes, I think you would say Cooper Flag is the better all-around player, but I think Knuckle deserves Rookie of the Year. I think what he's done this season has been more impressive with Charlotte so far.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to argue with what you just said. Like, I mean, Flag, like he gets all the usage, like all the ball's in his hands way more than it is Khan's, and I don't know, it's just surprising. I mean, also Khan fell to what, like the fourth pick. Like, arguably he could have been, looking at how he's played this year, the one or two pick. Like, it's kind of wild, and like there's still been great. This whole rookie class has just been phenomenal. Like VJ Edgecombe, Dylan Harper's been solid. Trey Johnson. There's t tons of guys that have this kind of overperformed where they've been playing, but I mean, it has to be one of these two guys, and like, it's just hard not to say Khan with the way he's played, the way, I mean, Flag was expecting to get the ball 90% of the time. Khan, not so much, and he's just overperformed where he was drafted, and I think he deserves it. I think you're right. I'm Team Khan.
Yeah, we'll see. But honestly, like, I feel like it's gonna end up being Flag, honestly. Like, as much as as nice
If
as
he
it would
played for
be,
65 games, you can't not give it to him too. Like,
yeah, it's like it'll end up being Flag. They need it to be Flag. So
yeah, exactly. This is where it gets tough, especially with the eligibility rules in play here. But man, which way? I mean, obviously Shea should be the MVP, assuming he reaches the 65 game threshold. But I mean, what are your thoughts on the race? It's so tight right now.
it's an interesting, yeah. So it's 65 games. You can only miss 17. Um, Trying to see, yeah. So Jokic can only miss one more. Wemby can only miss three more. Cade has the most. SGA can only miss seven more. So it's not a lot, and there are 20 games left as we're recording this. There are 20-ish games for each team as we're recording this. So I don't know. I think the statistics, I don't know, we were getting into this earlier. If you're going to go by whatever advanced metrics and the wins over, like the win shares and defensive, like all of this shit, like, then I think it has to be SGA or Jokic. I think you kind of have to give it to Jokic. This blurry picture of Jokic. I don't know why this ended up being blurry, but you have to give it to one of them, I think. But I don't know. It depends on how you define MVP. I feel like it is a existential conversation that has shifted over the course of, like, the NBA. I think we're kind of in a more analytical, like, stat-based era now, but it's like, who matters the most to their team? Who, if they weren't on their team would be trash. And Kate Cunningham, I think, is pretty clearly the runaway answer in that. Um, I don't know. I guess I'll pause there. What do you think about how do you feel like MVP should be defined? Are you okay with it, like, just the flip-flop? Because maybe it is just going to change and that just is the way it is, but how should it be defined? And then how do you think that that kind of influences who's ranked where.
Yeah, I think like the NBA and NFL over the last, I don't know how many years, I feel like they've gone to just like the best player on the best team with Matthew Stafford winning it. I mean, obviously they weren't the best team, but he was the best player on arguably the best offense. And like that's why he won over Drake May. And I think that was the same thing kind of last year with Josh Allen beating out Lamar. Like I know it's super close. Like I think at the end of the day, Josh Allen had the higher record or higher seed, and they ended up going further in the playoffs. So like I think it really all comes down to that. That's the way they've been picking the MVP. And like obviously Shea last year, Jokic the last few years before that, like it's really been the best player on the best team. But I just don't know how Cade is not the favorite right now. And I mean, like you said, like they were arguably one of the worst teams in the league 2, 3 years ago, and now they're the best. And if you take him off this team right now, they're at best a middle of the pack team in the East, like at best. So like I find it hard when the Pistons have a better record than the Thunder, and Cade is having these insane numbers where he's averaging 26, 10, and 6. I find it hard to not give it to him when they do have a better record than the Thunder. I think if the Thunder end up having a better record, sure, give it to Shea. But if the Pistons have a better record, I think it deserves to go to Cade. Because you take Cade and Shea off those teams, Thunder is still a playoff team. Pistons, I definitely not for sure. Like if they're lucky, they're playing play-in team without
Not a
Cade.
playoff team. Tobias Harris would be their leading scorer.
Him and
Tobias Harris and Duncan Robinson leading the charge.
that team is play-in at best and like sniffing the play-in. Like I just don't know how Cade isn't getting talked about more. Like it just like the Thunder were really bad 4 or 5 years ago, and then Shea's been in the MVP race the last 2, 3 years. But Pistons, they have the best record. I don't know how if we're doing this thing in the NBA and the NFL, where it's the best player and the best team, it should be Pistons. It should be Cade. Like that's what I don't get personally. I'd be pissed off. I'm not a Pistons fan in any way. I'm not a Shea hater in any way, but I just think it's got to go to Cade this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think again and all the talk right now is about the eligibility aspect of it. So we'll see how things go in regards to that. Like there is a world where everyone ends up being eligible and maybe it just goes to Shea, or maybe Shea doesn't make it and Jokic does, or whoever. Like, there's no telling how it ends up playing out. But I do agree. I think Cade, you know, in a lot of ways has proven to be the most valuable player in the league right now. Pains me to say it. And again, we'll see how that translates into the postseason as well. But he's been the most important player to his team this season, and he's backed that up with his play. So
100%. All right, let's get into some bold takes here. I mean, I think the most of the rest of the podcast we've been pretty like generous, conservative, if you will. I think now we're gonna get into some more hotter takes here. Like, I mean, both these takes are pretty wild. If you
yeah,
don't think they are, you're just not an NBA fan. Like, neither of these things should happen. But you want to give us a little bit of an explanation on why you picked OKC?
yeah, I'll give you. I don't. My blurry explanation is that OKC. I don't know. We've seen them kind of be they've shown some holes in the armor this season. And maybe that's being a bit, nitpicky given that they're still the number one seed in the West. But, last season they looked unbeatable. And at the start of this season, even they looked unbeatable. But from the NBA Cup on, kind of seeing what the Spurs did to them, I think there's been a shift. And, obviously this is an elite team, and when they're fully healthy, they're going to be able to compete with anyone, but they aren't. I don't know. I think even going into the playoffs last year, like in the finals, seeing them go to get pushed to 7 games by a Pacers team that I didn't feel like was that good. It's like, okay, this OKC team is phenomenally talented, but they aren't unbeatable. I think they can be coached against, they can be worked against. And, in the West, that first round series, it's probably going to be a wash. I'm like the playing right now. They play, you know, the Clipper. Well, depending on how things work out, maybe it is the Clippers, and that would be an interesting series. But if it's Golden State, if it's Phoenix, if it's Portland, I think OKC is going to be able to do well against whoever the 8 seed ends up being. I think. But that second round series against Minnesota or Denver, I think that's where the things are going to end, or that's my bold prediction. I think one of those teams, I'm going to say it's Minnesota, is going to be able to get over the hump against OKC this year. You know, they've seen teams be able to do it against them in the regular season. They've shown that they're not unbeatable, and I think that it's, you know, as good as they've been, I don't think that they're going to be able to be a repeat team. I think we've seen different, we haven't had a team repeat in a while. I don't know when the last time it's been a good amount of time, and this team just doesn't they haven't kind of expressed the level of dominance that like, those Golden State teams did or, the LeBron Miami teams did. It's not it hasn't been the same. So maybe they can do it, but I'm gonna go against it this year and someone knocking them off.
I mean, honestly, the crazy part too about this take is that they were pretty close to not making it this past year. Went to seven with the Nuggets, and I mean, if Jokic had
It's not like they had a cakewalk in.
yeah, it's easily happening. I think the other funny, interesting thing too is like the NBA the last 3, 4 years, I feel like has almost been looking for that next like dynasty team. Like the second the Nuggets won it, everyone's like, no one's beating them next year, and then they lose in like the second round. Then the Celtics win it, everyone's like, no one's stopping them the next year.
And then,
I think they lost to you guys in the second round. I mean, obviously Tatum gets hurt, but they're still winning that game, the Knicks. So I think like there's this like preconception or you have this notion in your head like this team can't be beat in the playoffs. Like they're just too good, especially this Thunder team that's been stacked for so many the last couple of years here. But like you said, they barely got by the Pacers. They barely got by the Nuggets. Like if I'm being like just brutally honest, they haven't performed the best in the playoffs the last few years. So like I don't think it's that crazy of a take for them not to make the Western Conference Finals, especially with how good the West is this year. Like I could see the Spurs, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, any one of those teams knocking them out potentially. So I like that take. I think it's a good one.
yeah, and then what about you? Clippers getting the playoff series. I guess this will depend on seeding too, or seeding dependent.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think with this one, it's more just like riding the hot wave. It's so weird. Like they were looking really bad to start the year. I think they're like 6-20 or something like that. And then they went on this massive, like, I think there's 17-3 run, 18-3 run on wins. And then right after that, they trade away Harden, Zubac, their whole team essentially. And they go so much younger. They get Mathurin, they get Garland.
Good moves, honestly, for like the
Exactly. And I think something's been up with Kawhi this year. He's been on like a different level somehow. I think something woke him up after that like crappy stretch to start the year, and he's just been baller. I mean, you guys saw him in the All-Star game dropping like 30 and however long that was, super quick, short span. I don't know. I think the Clippers can keep winning. I mean, they beat Warriors who were ahead of them last night. Like I think they could easily get out of the play-in. I think that, like you said, like the question will be the seeding. If they end up the 8 seed, they play Thunder. It's hard to imagine a world where they beat the Thunder, but I mean, there's crazier things that have happened. Like if Shea goes down, if Chet goes down, any one of those guys go down, definitely beatable. But I don't know. I mean, I think the way Kawhi is playing, if he could keep it up and get good chemistry with Garland, Mathurin, these other pieces they get the 7 seed. I could totally see them knocking out the Spurs, even the Rockets if they sneak into that 2 seed too. So like I definitely think it's a hot take. I think it would be very bold if they even made the playoffs, but I do think it's possible they can win a playoff series. All righty. Finals predictions. So our final four in each conference. I think I took the pretty like conservative route here, and you were at least a bit more bold than me. I think I picked pretty much the top four in the East and top four in the West, but yeah, as you can see, I mean, I think the Cavs are the 4 seed right now. Knicks are 3, Boston 2, Detroit 1. I just honestly don't see any team sneaking in besides one of those teams. I think they're all the four best teams in the East, just talent wise and just roster construction, all that. With the Celtics getting Tatum back, Harden going to the Cavs, you guys are already one of the best teams in the East. Detroit has played the part as the number one team in the East, so I don't think any of those teams lose in the first round. So I'm going to take them. In the West, honestly, still not that bold, but I'm gonna take the Thunder. I'm gonna take the Spurs winning their matchup, the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. I just don't believe in the Rockets and the Lakers and Suns, the Warriors. All those teams just seem to have a lot of holes. I think these teams are the most proven teams. Like all these teams have made runs in the past. Obviously not the Spurs, but they've had such a good year this year, beating all the top teams. So I like to think they'll make it in. They'll make it in with the Timberwolves who've been there the last 2 years, the Nuggets that have made these runs, and the Thunder, of course. So mine aren't that bold, but let's hear yours. Yours are a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, well, some of ours are the same. I guess I'll start with the West. I think San Antonio is going to be in there. OKC will be in there. I do think the Timberwolves end up making it. I do think, seeding will end up shaking up in some ways, and I see them making it. And I think Phoenix is going to be able to sneak in too. I see them being, you know, kind of a dark horse type of team. They have a solid, between Dylan Brooks and Devin Booker. I don't think that they're not an elite team necessarily, but again, like right now, 7 seed, if they end up sneaking into that 6 seed and they have to play Houston round one, I think that's a very winnable series for them. Um, and even if they are the 7, again, San Antonio was maybe a bit tougher for them. So I don't know, San Antonio and the Spurs wouldn't be able to make it, but still, I San Antonio and the Spurs, San Antonio and the Suns wouldn't be able to make it. But I don't know. I think Phoenix has a shot at making it into that 3 seed, moving up that way. I think OKC would be able to beat whoever the 8 seed is. Minnesota winning over Denver. Yeah, and then the Spurs beating
Whoever the
someone
seven
else.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not.
So I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't matter how the bracket works out. That's what I said. And then the East, this is pretty similar to you as well. I think Detroit's going to be able to make it. Boston, Knicks will be able to get our round one win. But I'm gonna say that Cleveland is this whole Harden thing isn't going to work out for them. I mean, they're a great team, but I think the Raptors are. I don't know. The Raptors are a unique team. They're not really good, but they're also not bad. And I think they could be easily overlooked, but they're athletic. If you talk about ultimately in the playoffs, especially, it's going to come down to a lot of Harden and Donovan Mitchell. Raptors have the guys to get out and defend them between Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett. They have scoring between Barnes, Barrett, and Brandon Ingram as well. I think they still have Jacob Poeltl. Like they have enough pieces in Toronto quickly, where I see them being able to sneak. I see them being able to sneak past someone in that first round. And and yeah, make it to the semifinals, but end up losing ultimately. I don't think the Raptors make a run, but I think they could surprise Cleveland this offseason.
I could totally see it. Like I think Cleveland's definitely beatable. I don't think it's that crazy of a take for Toronto to take them down.
And yeah, finals predictions. I don't know. We're thinking along similar lines. I guess both of us have Boston, regrettably, coming out of the East.
Not happy about
Um,
it.
but different teams coming out of the West. You have Denver winning. I guess what's your thoughts behind your prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I was saying, I think the Thunder beatable. I think the Spurs, they're just too young. I don't think, not trying to take away. I think they could totally win the West. I just think they don't have the experience of the Nuggets. The Timberwolves, they just haven't been able to get over the hump the last few years. They've made it to the Western Conference Finals back-to-back years, but I just don't see them doing it. The Rockets and all those teams kind of under them, the Lakers, the Warriors, Suns. I don't really see them getting out of the West. I think really there's like 3 to 4 teams that can. I think it's the Nuggets, Spurs, Timberwolves, and I just think the Nuggets have the best bet out of all of them. Maybe the Thunder right there with them, but I don't know. I just think it'll probably be them. And I hate to say it, but I think the safest pick in the East is the Celtics. Like they've just been one of the most dominant teams this year without arguably their best player. And even if he's only playing 20, 30 minutes, 20 minutes a game, like I think that's a huge impact on their team. And they're the 2 seed right now without him. Like I hate to say it too. I think the Pistons are very beatable. I think you guys are beatable the way you've played this year. I think the Cavs are 100% beatable, and every other team in the East is beatable. So I think Celtics are, I hate to say it, but I think with Tatum coming back, they're the team to beat in the East. And I think the only team that could really beat them is the team in the West. Like I think you guys, the Knicks, can beat them. I think the Pistons could put up a fight. I think after that, it's really just the West. So that's why I got Nuggets Celtics, and I just think the Nuggets get it done. I think they have a better team than the Celtics in place. Good pieces built around Jokic. So I'm going 4-2 Nuggets. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean my heart is telling me Knicks sweep anyone in the finals, but I can't just throw them in here. I gotta, we'll give Boston a chance. And I think I agree with a lot of what you said about Boston. They are a safe pick, especially with Tatum coming back. I think that they are gonna be in a position where they could really succeed and do well. Um, San Antonio out of the West, though, I think we've seen Wemby and this team show up in important games pretty consistently throughout this year. They've been able to do it against OKC. They've had their number. They've done it against other teams. And I think if they're able to, get past OKC again, make it to the finals, they match up very well against a Boston team. I think they match up really well with against a lot of teams in those East one because not a lot of them are, if it's Boston, I mean, really Philadelphia, I guess Cleveland, Philadelphia, and I'm like those are the two teams with like real centers in the East. I'm thinking about like other, I don't know, who are like, Detroit as well, I guess with Duran, but still it's not like I don't know, those are the most substantive centers. If it ends up being like Boston who makes it out, they have no one who's going to be able to handle Wemby. And Spurs have good defenders between Castle, Vassell, I think Keldon Johnson. Like they have a solid group of, athletic guys who are going to be able to match up with Boston. I think that would work out really well for them. If rankings remain the same, they would end up being higher, they'd get the home court advantage in that too. I think it works out well for San Antonio, and I think that they're going to be able to break through this year. Barring a Knicks championship, I think that Wemby he's shown us a lot this year. I think he's continued to show that he's going to be the future of the league, kind of regardless of how things end up going this year. And I do think that he's going to have his breakthrough. Like I think that this is I think this is going to be the year they'll make it to the finals. He ends up getting his championship. Um, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a different era of the NBA that we're entering. I think that's just kind of the cool part of what's going on right now. We've had the LeBron, kind of era, the Curry, Durant, all those guys, but we are definitely entering it's a different phase of who we're getting used to winning these championships. And it's,
No more back-to-back champions.
yeah,
That's
I know.
yeah.
Kind of thing of the past now.
But yeah, I like your Spurs take, man. I think it's definitely possible.
All
All
right.
right.
Any last words? Any other takeaways from the season, or that's all we got?
Last words are go Hornets. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Bet.